Welcome, and thank you for joining the question and answer session for this tutorial. My name is Margaret Merkley, and I'm chair of the program committee and president of the Ontario Guild of English Handbell Ringers.
Hello, my name is Rob Cairns, and I'll be joining Marg as a moderator for tonight's session. I am the vice president of OGEHR.
Today's tutorial, Choosing Music for Your Ensemble, was produced by Lisa Kyriakides. And in addition to this tutorial, Lisa has produced 5 others already. And they are getting started with a new piece of music, conducting the basics, how to mark your score efficiently, rehearsal techniques for conductors, and her last one was how to recover from a train wreck. They are all on the OGEHR event page for you to go back and look at or to go into and see for the first time. Lisa has one more in store for us, finding the melody in your score, and we hope that you'll certainly put that on your calendar and join us for that tutorial as well.
Lisa enjoys a busy and varied career as a conductor, clinician, performer, and music director. She directs 2 3-octave choirs at Aurora United Church and as well performs in the church's quintet EmBellished. Lisa is also a member of the Browns Foundation and is currently the Central Area Rep for OGEHR. Most recently, Lisa has been elected as the secretary of the newly formed Handbell Musicians of Canada. And we all agree, Lisa is amazing.
Definitely.
Okay. At this point, we'll be taking questions submitted in the Zoom chat.
Lisa, I think you've been so thorough with your tutorial and very organized with it that I'm not sure there's going to be a lot of questions, but we do have one to start off with, and it's, do your ringers ever give you suggestions of what they want to play? And if they do, how do you deal with their requests?
Yeah. So often they'll hear something. They'll hear something another ensemble has played at a festival or at a concert, or we share a space with a church, like we're both in the same building, so their ensemble might play something. So yes, they do. How do I deal with it? Well, I take it seriously if they ask. However, if I don't think it's an appropriate piece, then I will try to explain my position on that. And also, if we have our schedule already set for the term, then I might say something like, oh, that's a great suggestion. I'm going to put that away for and look for it for next term. Because sometimes people will hear something or know something exists that might not work with our ensemble or work at the level that we're working at right now, or there's many reasons why things don't fit in, but I would definitely take something seriously and look at it for sure.
So Lisa, you've shown in all of the videos and that you've done that you're a very organized person, and I'm assuming that at the beginning of each of the terms that you would actually give the people a list of the music that you're going to be doing in that term. But what happens if, say, something like a new performance comes up and you have to get ready for that? Or in my case, I've got a few people in the group that actually write handbell music, and they'll send me an email, or when I've got a piece that I'm working on, I'll give it out to the group. And in that case, sometimes some of the rehearsal is reasonably fluid so that we can accommodate these things in addition to the other performances that we're getting ready. So what happens when a change comes up, in essence?
Yeah, so I give my ringers at the beginning of each term a schedule, and it has all the dates of all the performances, the function, like, is this a church service? Is this a concert? Is this something we're doing off-site? And a list of all the repertoire that we're performing in every one of those performances. So yes, I am a bit organized. And usually we try to have most of that repertoire ready in their binders in September. I have my wonderful right-hand woman who's sitting, well, on my screen, she's beside Rob. And she puts everything in the binders for me. So because what I do is before I make my schedule, I ask all the ringers to give, so let's say if I'm making the schedule for September to December, I would ask all the ringers in, maybe early August to give me all the dates that they know that they're unavailable already, right? Now, obviously things come up, but people have already planned trips or there's a major event happening. So I ask them all the Sundays, because we're a church group, right? All the Sundays you're not available to play, all the rehearsals you think you're gonna miss, and then I make my schedule around that to avoid as many absences and substitutions as possible. So when I hand out the schedule, the assumption is that they will make that a priority, right? So they will put those in their calendars and make that a priority, and turn down other things for those performances. There's obviously some exceptions to that, but so I say that because if somebody were to approach me and want us to do an extra performance that's not in the schedule, I would definitely, well, first of all, I'd have to think about whether it's even feasible based on our schedule. And also I would then have to go back to the ringers and say, okay, this is what has been proposed for us. Can you do this? Because this wasn't in the original schedule. So I'm not going to accept anything until I know everybody can do it. Or enough people can do it that we can reasonably assume that we can get it. So I feel that there's a relationship that needs to be made between conductor and ensemble, which is one of my time is valuable, your time is valuable, don't mess with mine, I won't mess with yours. So that if I say these are the performances, I'm not going to add anything else without getting your permission. So that's how I would deal with an extra performance. As far as I'm not lucky like you, Rob. I'm not a brilliant composer like you, and nobody in my ensembles so far composes. So I don't really end up in that situation. And I'm probably not as flexible as you are.
I can see. I don't claim that anything that I personally do is good, but we will read it. So I've got a follow-up question, but before I do that, when you said that you are organized and you give out lists, I'm looking at the participants in the Zoom chat and I see this.
Yes, because two of them are my ringers, and they're like, yes, we know. But I really do believe that, especially with handbells, like you all know that you need to avoid absences as much as humanly possible because they just create havoc in your groups. Yeah. So, and you're going to get absences whether you get, whether you've Uber scheduled or not. Somebody's going to get ill. There's going to be some problem in their home. Something comes up. So you want to avoid all the other absences. So I'm sort of like, okay, let's get organized. Also, because I work in a church, it's good for my ministers too, and my music director, if I'm working with them and I'm like, okay, well, these are the dates that we want to perform, I have to get their okay about all that. And then my music director knows, okay, well, I don't need a soloist for all those dates that we're performing. So, and because my mantra is to look at everything as a bigger picture, I have to look at it at least 4 months at a time, because otherwise my whole thesis doesn't really work.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. So the follow-up question is, with all of that organization and the players knowing what they're supposed to be doing, how do they react when there is actually a change?
There isn't too many changes for my two large, like my 3-octave ensembles. Really what's written is what's written. Now, sometimes there is a change in repertoire. I have done that. But again, I will explain to them why, And I think because they know I don't do it very often. So for example, I can't remember if it was last Christmas or it was the Christmas before, something anyways. It was around Christmas time, and we do a big carols by candlelight service, and we play and we rehearse for a long time for that. And then we also play on the Christmas Eve, and those two things, depending on the calendar and when things are, can be super close together. And so sometimes I can I can underestimate how much time a piece actually took. And so then to perfect or get to performance ready. And so then I'm like, oh, I don't have much time. So I remember one Christmas, I had to substitute a piece, and I had to do it, I don't know, what did I do it, a month in advance, maybe 3 weeks in advance. And I said to them, okay, I know we've been rehearsing this other thing for Christmas Eve, but we don't have enough time to do it. And at that point, I think they all knew I was right and actually felt like, okay. And I gave them a piece that was simpler. And I believe we'd already played it years ago. And so it was something they could pick up fast. So the changes that really happen for me are with my quintet, which I am a member. And there's always things like we think we've got our performance schedule set and then all our repertoire, and we get calls all the time. Like, what people are like, they call you in November the 1st and want you to perform, December. So with that group, again, I always go to them and say, okay, I've got this new opportunity. What do you think? And then as a group, that group chooses music often together. Like I'll probably come up with a list and say, okay, we need 5 pieces. It's Christmas. Here's 7 pieces that I'm suggesting, or 8 pieces. Let's read them again and see what they're like, and then we choose them together. So,
Lisa, the next question may not pertain to you and the people that you work with, but have you ever worked with a minister that doesn't let you know what their themes are going to be for the year? I'm only assuming that you are trying to get music that accommodates what the themes are for the minister. Have you ever worked with a person that does not let you know about that until a month, 6 weeks in advance?
Not really, because most of the stuff that we do tends to be not about the themes, but the days of the calendar. So, we might play a piece that's around Thanksgiving. We might play a piece that's around Remembrance Day. We play lots of pieces for Christmas or for Trinity Sunday or that kind of thing. I have had a music director, many music directors ago, certainly not the one I have now, who would pull all sorts of things like that at the last minute, who was very unsupportive of the Bell program and would throw things at me at the last minute all the time. But I've been lucky with ministers.
Okay, well, that's a good answer to that question.
Lisa, you talked about it earlier that, you have substituted a piece when you've come up against the situation that, it just wasn't going to be ready in time due to whatever circumstances. You've had a snow day, etc., and people have missed rehearsals. Do you ever keep pieces in your repertoire as kind of set pieces for the ensemble?
You mean something that we would play every year?
Yeah, kind of like a couple of go-to pieces. I know that with my group, we might have played something, but then we'll decide we're still going to keep it in our books. We're not going to give that one back, and we're just going to keep it there as in case something comes up, here's a piece we can go to. Or it might be a piece that, they just really like.
Yeah, we have
that they really like. And if I say, let's take it out of our books, they're all, no, we want to keep this one. So
I have a very efficient librarian who sometimes as soon as we performed a piece, she takes it out of the binders. You think I'm organized, you should meet her. But we have had in the past sort of pieces that, we can go back to, that are in our library, pieces we've done before and we can easily whip up and do again, that kind of thing. But no,
so in that case, you kind of know that you do have some go-to pieces, but they might not necessarily be sitting in the book. But if something comes up and you haven't had time for a particular piece, or there's a new engagement, you can just easily pull those.
Yeah, okay. Definitely with the smaller ensemble, we definitely have pieces like that. The bigger ensembles, I tend to try to do as much new repertoire as I can, but there are definitely, and I'm in a very lucky position right now. I hope I still will be when COVID is over, that I have enough people to run two ensembles. So even if I have a piece and one ensemble's played it, I can get the other ensemble also to play it. 2 years later, nobody will know and nobody will care. So I'm pretty fortunate that way. So, and I hope still after COVID, if everybody comes back. So.
We're hoping that all of our groups are able to kind of come back in that case.
Yes,
sure.
Because we've never practiced, right? Since the whole year, nothing.
Lisa, I think you've addressed some of the ways that you determine when you're going to have your performance dates. But are there any other criteria that you use to pick your performance dates that you haven't mentioned?
Yeah, so the one, of course, I mentioned was ringer availability. Now, even then, you can't necessarily, sometimes it's just somebody's going away for a month and you can't avoid that. But so ringer availability, of course, calendar. And a lot of it is the standard thing. It's pretty hard to do a performance on the second day of, second Sunday in September because you just got together. But when I'm looking at, so it's kind of a fine balance between time and repertoire. So when I'm setting my schedule, I'm like, okay, well, I found this great piece to play for Remembrance Day, or I often, of course, I'm using the festival music, right? So, we can do this festival piece at this point. So I have to look at, and I have to make, my most educated decision about how long will it take my ensemble to get that piece performance ready. And so that's again why my mantra is looking at it as a big picture, because I have to look, okay, this piece is going to take us a good 4 weeks to kind of really solidify, but this piece might take us 8 weeks. So I've got to start it earlier. And so that will determine too, the calendar as well, so that very few times would I ever have two performances back to back if I can avoid it. Now, unless it's one ensemble and the other ensemble, then that I can do. And then I also have to look at my congregation as well, and my minister and my music director. So they don't want necessarily 4 Sundays of bells in a row. They would prefer that we spread this stuff out. So I have technically 3 ensembles that perform. So then I have to make sure that each ensemble gets enough performance time and that they're sort of spread out, and so that the congregation gets nice variety as well between the 3 different ensembles. And it's not just like no bells, no bells, no bells, and then 4 weeks of bells and then nothing for 2 months. So then I want to, have a variety of things. And also I would say, depending on the criteria for the piece. So for example, if the piece needs an extra musician, a violinist or a flautist or something, then I've got to work within their schedule as well. And also, well, no, I think that might be it. But I think sometimes people, of course, nobody who's sitting in front of me right now, but I think sometimes people think that picking repertoire is kind of an easy thing to do. You just go into your library and you go, oh, I like this piece, and you pick it out and you go, there we go, now we're going to play that. And maybe there are people who do it that way. For me, it's like a several week process, and I try really hard to, it's everything I've said already in my workshop. I really want my ringers to have a great experience in what they're doing. I want them to be challenged. I want them to have fun. I want them to feel satisfied with what they're doing. I want them to be learning. But I want my congregation and my audiences also to have fun and be moved. And You know, I want, and obviously we're in a church, so there's the whole spiritual aspect to the whole thing. I want myself also to feel like I'm enjoying the music, and I'm not like, oh, good Lord, here we go with this piece again. I'm already sick of this piece. So that's why when I choose repertoire, I take a while to do it, because I really have to let my brain percolate through the repertoire and see what sort of bubbles up to the top. And if there's because there's always music going on in my head. So if there's something if I hear the pieces in my head that I've researched, I'm like, oh, yeah, I really like that one. And the last thing I do sometimes is my daughter is in music at Laurier. And if I have to decide between two pieces that are very, you know, similar, like very rhythmic, sometimes I'll even ask her opinion. I'll just play them and I'll say, give me your first impression. Which one would you want to hear?
Well, it's good to have another set of ears, particularly if you're trying to make a decision. I see that one of the participants in the comments has said that in their group, they keep a couple of pieces like the Lord's Prayer and the 23rd Psalm handy for things like emergencies or for funerals, which would come up. I don't see any more questions, though, Marg.
Well, I am quite impressed that we had as much discussion as we did. I didn't think we would, but there's obviously a lot of criteria to take into account. And thank you very much, Lisa, for leading us in this discussion.
You're welcome.
Please mark Saturday, March 27th on your calendars and plan on being part of OGEHR's next handbell tutorial session. Our guest will be Debbie Fingus, who will be presenting a tutorial on demystifying meters. We encourage you and all of your bell ringers to attend. All ringers, even seasoned ringers, will come away with new information.
2 o'clock?
Saturday, yes, it'll be at 2 p.m.
On behalf of the Ontario Guild of English Handbell Ringers, I would like to particularly thank Lisa for creating the video, the tutorial, and for answering our questions in the Q&A session. But thank you to everybody who has joined in on both of these as well. Thank you.